It's 23:17 in Warsaw, 22:20 here in London. Now, the residents of the small Polish town of Baranów could be about to get a rather big shock. There are plans for the municipality, which is currently home to around, 1,500 people, to become the site of Europe's biggest airport. About 40 kilometres outside Warsaw, the new hub would welcome 47 million passengers a year, and that's just for starters. Well, Ben Vogel is the editor of Jane's Airport Review, and I'm delighted to say he joins us on the line. Welcome to Monocle 24, Ben. Just explain to us how big this plan is.
Well, it's certainly very ambitious. The Polish government and the state-owned airline, LOT Polish Airlines, they want to build a new hub for Central Europe. Their rationale, their logic, is that Warsaw Chopin Airport, the existing main airport, is approaching saturation point over the next couple of years, even though the airport was upgraded very recently, relatively recently, for the Euro 2012 football tournament. But it is approaching saturation point, so the idea is to build a very large greenfield airport in the location that you mentioned.
We're looking at the increasing things to start to be built in the next few years, with the ultimate capacity to be 100 million passengers a year. Now, you mentioned that the Frederick Chopin Airport is nearing the end of capacity and is, in fact, bigger than Warsaw, bigger than Prague Airport now, and is Eastern Europe's biggest airport. But is there a need for an airport that big in Poland?
Well, there are two sides to the argument, of course. The argument among the expansionists, if I can call them that, is that Polish GDP is growing at a very good, healthy rate. It's forecast 4.2% for 2018, and there is a link between GDP growth and air traffic growth. So the demand is there, they hope, in the years to come. Also, I think there's an attempt here to try and connect with the policy that the Chinese government is coming up with, the Silk Road Economic Belt policy, to try and build good logistics, trade and travel connections between Asia and Europe. I think that's one of the reasons why this new airport is being planned.
Tell us a little bit more about how this would work in terms of the political ambitions for this. People are saying that what's known as the Central Transport Hub, which is what we're talking about, is in fact something that the governing Law and Justice Party is pushing very, very hard. And it is in fact a sort of an international vanity project.
Yes, I've heard that as well, and there certainly is a very, very big prestige angle to the plan, given the fact that, as you say, there is a nationalistic government in charge. We often see around the world in nationalist and dare I say it, authoritarian regimes, there is a connection between those governments and vanity projects in building large airports and other kinds of infrastructure.
One thing that has happened in the last few weeks, I think it was that there's a suggestion that Poland could play host to a very large American airbase. What would Poland's role be, therefore, if it suddenly becomes the centre of both civil and military aviation in Europe? Who would suffer? Whose lunch would they be eating?
Well, I wasn't aware of any plans for some kind of NATO base to share that facility. But it's not unknown for large airports to have both civil and military tenants. There needs to be a very, very sort of careful demarcation between those two different kinds of operation. But as I said, I wasn't aware of any NATO involvement there.
I actually think that it was a suggestion that was made between the Polish president and Donald Trump that there would in fact be an American airbase called the Trump Airbase, which many people suggested was a rather large and fanciful idea. But it still plays into the idea, doesn't it, that if you have an enormous airport for civil aviation and you have an enormous military airbase, that someone else in Europe is going to lose out.
Well, I'm not sure if it's that kind of zero-sum game, particularly if you look at the recent years' trend of overall traffic in Europe and in Central and Eastern Europe. The trend is up. demand is only going to continue to grow as GDP grows and population grows. So I think perhaps the argument that this new airport will eat someone else's lunch, so to speak, I think that argument might not prove to be true.
Ben Vogel, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Monocle 24.